Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to break down one of the biggest, most talked about demographic shifts happening in America right now.
You've probably seen a headline like this, right? Well, this isn't just clickbait. It's a real story about a massive migration that is literally reshaping the country as we speak.
So, you have to wonder, who saw this trend coming from a mile away? And more importantly, who was savvy enough to build a massive, multi-billion-dollar business on the back of it? Today, we're diving into the story of one company that did exactly that. Their whole strategy was built on a simple, kind of brilliant idea. Just follow the moving trucks.
Okay, so first things first, let's get into the why. What in the world is fueling this incredible movement of people from the coasts down to the Sunbelt?
You know, when you really look at it, it's like a perfect storm of factors all hitting at once. You've got the insane cost of living in places like New York and California. Then bam, remote work suddenly becomes a real option for millions. Add in lower taxes, booming job markets down south, and this deep desire for more space and a different way of life. It's a powerful cocktail, and the pandemic just hit the accelerator.
And this chart? Man, it just lays out the economic pulse so clearly. Job growth in the Sunbelt is soaring. Business-friendly policies are a huge draw. Meanwhile, that cost of living in the big coastal cities is just a massive burden. So Sunbelt states aren't just sitting back and watching people arrive, they are actively rolling out the welcome mat. So whenever you see a trend this huge, you know there's a massive opportunity somewhere. And that is where our case study really begins, with a company that made this whole migration its core business. So let's meet the company at the center of all this. Mid-America Apartment Communities, or just MAA for short. They're what's called a real estate investment trust, or a REIT, and they happen to be one of the biggest publicly traded apartment owners in the entire country. And yeah, their whole strategy can be boiled down to that one fantastic phrase we keep talking about, follow the moving trucks. And this wasn't some lucky guess, you know. You can see it right here in their history. This was a slow, deliberate build. They started leaning into the Southeast way back in 1994, then really doubled down on the Sunbelt after the 2008 financial crisis. And then in 2016, they went all in with a huge merger. This was a decades-long plan to line up perfectly with where America was heading.
Okay, so we get the big idea. Follow the moving trucks. It's catchy, but what does that actually look like on the ground? How do they pull it off? Let's open up their playbook.
See, this is where it gets really smart. It's so much more than just buying apartments in popular cities. They have this whole disciplined system. They focus only on those high-growth markets, but they also target valuable suburban spots. They spread their bets across the entire Sunbelt, so they're not too dependent on one city. Plus, they keep a healthy mix of luxury and more affordable places, and they're constantly renovating them. All of that is built on a rock-solid financial foundation. And this table is a perfect snapshot of that diversification strategy in action. They're not just betting it all on, say, Austin. Nope. They're in Atlanta for its corporate and logistics hubs. They're in Austin for this Silicon Hills tech explosion. They're in Dallas for finance, and Raleigh's Research Triangle for all those highly educated renters. See? Each city has its own economic engine, which is a really smart way to reduce risk.
All right, so the strategy sounds brilliant on paper, for sure. But here's the billion-dollar question. Does it actually work? Is it making money? Let's check out the payoff.
Wow. Yeah, I'd say the numbers pretty much speak for themselves here. An occupancy rate consistently over 95%, that's just incredible in the real estate world. It's a direct signal of just how powerful and steady the demand is in their markets. Bottom line, their apartments are full. And it's not just about keeping the rooms full, right? That super high occupancy flows directly into what really matters for a business. Strong revenue growth, healthier profits, and, here's the key for their investors, a long and reliable history of paying out bigger and bigger dividends. That's the name of the game. You know, another really clever part of their strategy is what kind of apartments they own. By having this blend of fancy Class A luxury buildings and those really solid, high-quality Class B value properties, they can attract pretty much everybody, from young professionals to growing families. It makes their whole business way more resilient, no matter what the economy is doing. Okay, but let's be real. No strategy is totally bulletproof. To get the whole picture, we absolutely have to look at the other side of the coin. What are the potential bumps in the road for this Sunbelt first approach? And this does a great job of laying out the pros and cons. On the one hand, you have these incredible tailwinds like job growth and lower costs. But on the other hand, well, the very thing that makes the Sunbelt so hot could lead to overbuilding. And then you have to think about things like climate risks and, of course, how sensitive they are to rising interest rates.
So yeah, the road ahead isn't necessarily a straight, easy shot. I mean, what if a national recession slows down that migration? Or what if construction costs keep rising and squeeze their profits? And you can never rule out local politics, things like rent control. Plus, other investors have noticed this trend, so competition is definitely heating up. They've got to stay sharp to keep their edge.
Which, it all brings us to this one big final question. MAGA has played this masterfully. They've tied their success to one of the biggest American trends of our time. But all trends eventually slow down or evolve or change direction. So the biggest question for their future isn't about how well they've played the game so far. It's about how long the game itself will last. What happens when the moving trucks finally stop?